What's up? This is David. Today I want to talk about how it's not rich versus poor anymore. It's now about leverage versus unleveraged. Why sales calls suck and how to sell high-ticket coaching with leverage instead, right? So forget rich versus poor. It's now leverage versus unleveraged. And this is the great Naval Ravikant, right? And one of the problems with sales calls, the one-on-one sales calls, is that it is very unleveraged. It is a ratio of like 1-to-1, right? So you have to like say the same things again and again and go through the same objections again and again. It's not very efficient, especially like if you look under the hood, there's many cons to having like a 1-to-1 unleveraged sales calls, okay? In terms of like human leverage, it's exactly what it is. It's like a 1-to-1 ratio, right? 1-to-1. So that's the ratio of like input to output. So input 1 and you get output 1. But what are ways where we can create leverage and get more output from our input? How do we do this, right? So even if you hire a team, let's say like you're hiring a sales team, right? The ratio pretty much stays the same. If you hire 3, the ratio stays 3-to-3, right? If you hire 5, stays 5-to-5 ratio, right? And think about like the Great Pyramids, or I could give you like more examples, but this is just one that I came up with. But if you were to rebuild like the pyramids today, or any like building, right? In the modern world, yeah, you can build it with lots and lots of human labor, right? 1-to-1 leverage, right? But you're neglecting modern technology. How about using technology? How about using things that gives us a leverage, that gives us a more efficient way to build that same pyramid, like using giant cranes and machines and engines, equipment to do most of the work for you, right? We have that advantage now. We have modern technology to help us out, right? Which will speed up the building time in orders of magnitude, by the way. Like think about like having a bunch of like human labor versus leverage versus like, having like machines and cranes and, robots may not exactly be able to do this yet, but having like machines around, right? Having engines do most of the work for us, right? So it's like ridiculous to try and build the pyramids with our bare hands, right? And yet we're doing the equivalent in our digital businesses at times. Like we have the power of the internet and a lot of times we're not using it properly. So maybe here's some more relevant examples. Like say you're trying to use a fax machine when you can just use an email. You know what I mean? Like it's much easier, and like with better technology, things get more efficient. And how about sending newspapers when you can use digital media instead, right? So tools and tech, it makes us more efficient. It gives us leverage, okay? We have to be able to adapt. So you have to see business in the eyes of leverage and see it in the eyes of bottlenecks. And sales calls and having a sales team is like having a bunch of rowers of a boat. Okay, this is like the analogy that I like to give. Yeah, you can row the boat and it'll go forward, just like you can build pyramids with your bare hands and with a lot of human labor. You can, but it's not very efficient. But no matter how many boat rowers you have on your team, you still can't output more efficiency than a freaking engine, right? Think about that. You're hiring a bunch of like boat rowers, or you can just use an engine. You can use technology, right? And one of the ways we're going to be talking about is using Google Docs to sell instead of a sales team. And that's just one way, by the way. Like, there are many different ways we can utilize digital leverage, right? So do you want a bunch of boat rowers, or would you like an engine instead? That's the ultimate question. So you probably have some questions about like selling with like Google Docs or selling with like this whole like digital leverage thing, right? And I've definitely had the same questions probably that you've had as well. Like, does selling with, Google Doc work with like high ticket? Is probably one of your first questions. And I thought the same thing too, right? So you're probably thinking like, maybe we can sell like low ticket stuff with like a Google Doc, but high ticket though? Like, can you really sell high ticket offers with Google Docs? Yeah, absolutely. Like, I've seen so many examples of this stuff. It's like, I've seen deals of, $2K a month, $4K, $10K, $10K PIF, $15K PIF, 30K PIF all the way up to like 70K PIF, okay? All with the freaking 5-page Google Doc. And an example I give a lot is like Taki. He very often sells 30K offers with a 4-page Google Doc. And a lot of times he sells out. Sometimes he's overbooked, right? And so using leverage like this, it helps us reduce complexity and helps us to make our business very simple. And it also helps our prospect to get them to buy quicker. Like sometimes people are just ready. You know, like Eugene Schwartz's market sophistication. Some people are just in that area of like, they are most aware and they are ready to buy, right? But then we're putting like all this walls and resistance in the way of people, of getting people to actually buy, right? And in the case of Taki, he used to have like a 9-person sales team. And he doesn't anymore because he just sells with like the simple like Google Doc offer, right? Even me, as somebody who's relatively new with selling with Google Docs, so this is like my personal story, right? I was very curious to see if this was going to work or not, right? And so I've done like, 15K a month deals with like a 6-month commitment with my previous like marketing agency, right? And, of course, there's more context to that. You can't just, hand out Google Docs left, right, and center and expect deals, okay? You do need a little bit of a context. And I'll be talking more about that in like, future videos and whatever. But guess what? People have been buying high ticket things online for a long time now. This is not a new thing. So like, think about like people buying Tesla cars with a few taps on their phone, you know what I mean? Or like people buying like Apple computers with a few taps. So it's not a foreign idea. It's been around and probably will increase even more in the future. So I want to talk about market maturity and how the markets move. So before the internet, like buying things on the internet was very like a foreign idea, right? But then as markets gets more and more sophisticated, more and more people get used to the idea of buying things online, right? And now we're at a point where people buy really big items online, like such as the example I just gave with the Tesla car, right? And has market maturity. So like, when like you first use the internet, you didn't really know what a banner was or like what an ad was. And then at first, like you might see like an ad or like a banner that says, hey, like, I don't know, like you won like the lottery ticket, click here. And then you get all excited. I won the lottery. Oh my God. But then you realize it's an ad, right? And become blinded to it, right? It becomes like banner blindness. Well, same thing with like sales calls. Because the market matures, people now see that it's not a discovery call or a strategy session or whatever name you give it. People now understand that it is a sales call, right? And like people avoid them now. Like for my case, for example, I avoid those calls at all costs now. Like I don't want to freaking like, I have to take 45 minutes out of my day. Okay. I have to like schedule it in the future, right? And I have to like be prepared in front of my freaking computer just to like see the offer. It's like, can you just, send me the freaking offer to see if I want to buy this thing or not, So it's market maturity. Like people now understand, and now there's a lot more resistance for people booking a call because they know what it is. They know it's a sales call in disguise. So I've talked about, like outsourcing the sales process before, right? Like hiring a sales team. So what's the problem in that? Okay, like I said, it's still very unleveraged, right? It's still like 1-to-1. Even if you hire 3, it's like 3-to-3, right? 3 input, 3 output. But you're still building on quicksand, in my opinion. So with like smaller offers, right? Like you don't even need a sales rep a lot of times. Even with like high ticket offers, like you don't always need a sales team. And I'll give you some examples, but there are ebbs and flows in a business, right? So when you turn on an ad, you have like a giant wave of like leads coming in, right? But it leads to another problem. When you hire a sales team, like you have, as a coach, if you're doing this as a coaching business, which I'm assuming that you are doing, you run into delivery bottlenecks. Even if you have like a group or like a community, you might like want to chill out for a bit, or maybe you're like satisfied with the amount of people in your group, for example, right? So if you're backed up on delivery, guess what happens? Like you have to pause the ads, don't you? You have to pause the incoming traffic. And guess what? That means your sales team will be out of a job, right? They'll be complaining. They'll be like, where are the leads, David? because most salespeople, they're based on commission only, right? And because like they don't have any traffic, they're going to be out of a job and they're going to leave. And so it becomes like this whole like hiring and firing process, right? Or if you're hiring like an agency to do it, it's like, if they know that they're going to be fired after like a month, they're not going to want to join in the first place, right? So it becomes like this it becomes a problem, but not a lot of people are aware of that this problem exists. So that's why you may not always need your sales reps. You see where I'm getting at here? And if you're selling smaller offers, by the way, you definitely don't need a sales rep. But not only that, right? But so you become, once you hire like a sales team, or like you have an agency do it, here's the thing. Not a lot of people see it. You become a slave to your sales team now. Like, who's the real master here? Like, because you have to keep your sales team happy. Like, you have to constantly send them traffic now, right? And so you got to like not only keep your team spirits up, you also have to keep your clients happy too, right? So it's like you have more to take on and just more stress piles up. There's so much complexity, so much management going on, right? And so like these are like many problems, many like elephants in the room that many people don't talk about. Like, it exists in their business and they know it's like in the back of their mind, you know? It's like, dang, I gotta constantly keep the sales team, you know, churning. Like, I gotta constantly send them traffic, right? And if you don't send them traffic, they're gonna complain and then they might leave. And then it like requires hiring again. It's like, I gotta go through the whole like hiring process again, and like filtering and interviewing. Or if you're doing an agency, you gotta hire another agency. And then like the agency doesn't like it either, right? So you constantly have to have that traffic going. So the next question might be coming up, right? So, okay, then how about you outsource your coaching, right? How about outsourcing your coaching then? Well, first and foremost, if you don't enjoy coaching and helping others, then maybe you're in the wrong business model, right? Maybe you're in the wrong business model, because you should be enjoying like doing this stuff, okay? You know, like the reason why I got into this whole business is because I freaking love, you know, helping people and teaching, and it becomes like win-win, and like, you know, charging high ticket and, you know, really helping somebody out. It creates like a win-win, right? So if you're in this model, I would assume you enjoy coaching, at least somewhat. Clients pay to see you, not somebody else, not to hand off your work to someone else. And that's another problem with the sales calls. It's like on the sales calls, they're getting onto the phone, the Zoom with a stranger, right? And then not only does the sales rep, they don't know as much about your program as you do, but then it's like a weird relationship dynamic. It's like you create this like 45-minute relationship and then you never see them again. Isn't that weird? It's like a strange relationship, you know what I mean? So yeah, it's very weird. And if someone else is doing the coaching for you, I think it's almost borderline like unethical and false advertising, you know what I mean? It's like, imagine like buying concert tickets to see like Taylor Swift, and then you get like a friggin' like a, I don't know, like a Taylor Swift, like some like body double, okay? Like it's like Taylor Swift with the mask, but it's like somebody else, right? Like, people will be mad. Or like, say you go to like a Tony Robbins event and then you wanted to see Tony live, right? But then like Tony's protege like comes onto the screen and is like, wait a minute, this isn't Tony, you know? It's like somebody disguised as Tony, you know? So imagine like the damage the brand will get, right? To be fair, like Tony does delegate some of it, and I'm not against like, you know, hiring coaches, definitely do. But you still want to show up for like, you know, some of the group events and stuff, right? So Tony does delegate some of his like lower events to like his assistant coach, but he's still at the events, right? He still like shows face and still like helps people. So I'm not saying not to hire a coach to help you out when you really start to scale, but make sure you are also there for your students as well, right? And because again, like they bought the program for you, right? So which leads me to the next point. Service focus versus sales focus. So if you are doing the calls, especially if you're doing it by yourself, like you're spending 80% of your time on the strategy sessions and only 20% of your time actually serving your clients. It's like, it made no sense. It's like, shouldn't it be the inverse, you know? So it's like we become And we've been told by the gurus to do the calls all day, right? So we become salesperson first, and we do coaching on the side. It's like, what? Like, coaching has become a side gig at this point. So it made no sense. Like, shouldn't you spend most of your time helping the people that actually paid you the money, right? Actually serving your clients. And guess what? Because you're spending more time serving your clients, when you actually get some leverage and use digital leverage, and it's not just Google Docs, by the way. Google Docs is part of the strategy, but it's not the full strategy, right? There's many other ways we can convert people. Okay, I'm just trying to open your eyes to new ways of getting leverage. Okay, and because they get awesome results, they stay longer serving your clients. Some stay for many, many years. Okay, and this is how we can actually increase LTV. Not a lot of people talk about this. It's like, yo, do a really good job for your clients, and the LTV will be raised, not through some gimmick or technique, but just by serving your clients well, right? And not only that, but they'll do the marketing for you. They'll like brag about you. They'll give you testimonials, word of mouth. They'll spread the word of mouth too, right? So you just created a solid recurring source of revenue, a higher LTV, simply by staying service focused. Okay. So instead of most of the time making the boat go forward, how about you take care of the actual boat first? Okay. And we can, of course, we can attach a freaking engine to it so we can get some leverage, right? Because we have freed up a lot of our time away from sales calls by using leveraged means. And I'm going to be going over a lot of these, leveraged, digital leverage stuff in upcoming videos. So stay tuned for that. We can use that time to stack assets and to actually live a life. Okay, actually live a great life. We create a true lifestyle business model that runs on an engine of freedom. And we'll go deeper down the rabbit hole in upcoming vids. All right. So if you are an established coach wanting to learn more about this stuff, watch this video now. I believe it's super sick, and I believe it will help you out in your high ticket coaching business and leveraged means. I'll talk to you soon.